For the longest time, fear has been a go-to tool in the manager's playbook. A little bit of pressure, some anxiety, to keep people on their toes. But what if that old tool is not just outdated, but is actively sabotaging your team's very best work? Well, today, we're going to dive into the surprising science of why fear is actually a liability in the modern workplace. And it all starts with a question you've probably asked yourself before.
This is the question that keeps leaders up at night, right? You go out, you hire these brilliant people, and then you're in a meeting, you ask for new ideas, and you just hear crickets. So why? Well, the answer has everything to do with a really primitive survival mechanism that's hardwired deep inside our biology. Okay, first things first, let's just be crystal clear. The world of work has fundamentally changed. That old model, fear-based motivation, it might have squeezed a little more efficiency out of someone doing the same repetitive task over and over. But for the kind of work we all do today, it's a total innovation killer. Just take a look at this comparison. We've shifted from a world that was predictable with repetitive tasks to one that's volatile, uncertain, one that demands complex problem solving and constant collaboration. And here's the kicker. The skills we need for modern work, creativity, learning, real teamwork, are the exact opposite of what a fear-driven environment produces. So what is actually going on inside our heads when this happens? To really get why fear fails so spectacularly, we need to understand how it neurologically sabotages the very brain functions we need the most. Yeah, let's pop the hood and see what's really happening. Okay, so meet the star of our show, the amygdala. I want you to think of it like your brain's super cautious, maybe a little jumpy security guard. It's this ancient system, and its whole job is to detect threats and trigger our survival instincts. And here's the crazy part. This system cannot tell the difference between being chased by a lion and being belittled by your boss. To the amygdala, a threat is a threat, period. And this just lays it out perfectly. The second a social threat is perceived, like a sarcastic comment in a meeting, the amygdala sounds the alarm. It literally hijacks all the good stuff, blood flow, oxygen, glucose, and diverts it away from your prefrontal cortex, the part of your brain that does all the smart thinking, and sends it to the parts you'd need for a good old-fashioned fight or flight response. And that right there, that is the absolute heart of the problem. When that survival switch gets flipped on, the very cognitive functions we hire people for, their ability to analyze complex stuff, come up with creative insights, solve tough problems, they are effectively shut down. Bottom line, you can't be brilliant and terrified at the exact same time. It just doesn't work. Okay, so that neurological freakout doesn't just stay in your head. It translates directly into a workplace behavior that is, for the individual, completely rational. But for the organization, it's disastrous. And it leads to what you could almost call an epidemic of silence. See, in an environment that feels unsafe, that little threat detector in our brain kicks in and tells us to follow a very simple strategy for self-preservation. You want to avoid looking ignorant? Simple. Don't ask any questions. Want to avoid looking incompetent? Easy. Never admit a mistake. And to avoid looking disruptive, well, you certainly don't make suggestions or challenge the way things are. And this chart, it shows you exactly why that strategy is so tempting. Think about it. If you speak up, the benefit goes to the organization, and it's delayed, it's uncertain. But if you stay quiet, the benefit, protecting yourself, is immediate, it's certain, and it goes directly to you. So if you're just looking out for number one, silence is the only logical choice.
This quote just says it all, doesn't it? The mistake you never made, the idea you never shared, it's invisible. Inaction feels safe because, it leaves no evidence. Okay, but how big of a problem is this, really? Well, the number is, honestly, it's staggering. Research shows that a whopping 85% of employees have felt unable to bring up an important issue with their boss. Just let that sink in for a second. 85% of the time, critical information, warnings about risks, brilliant ideas for innovation, crucial feedback is being actively hidden from the people in charge. This isn't some fuzzy, feel-good morale issue. No, this is a massive, systemic business risk. So what's the alternative? Well, it's all about creating psychological safety. But this is exactly where a lot of managers get it wrong. They hear safety and they think soft. They think it means being nice all the time or lowering standards, and that just could not be further from the truth. So let's just tackle this concern head-on, shall we? Is creating a safe environment just an excuse to lower the bar and let mediocrity slide?
The data shows the exact opposite is true. Okay, take a look at this matrix. Psychological safety and performance standards are two completely different things. Low safety and high standards, that's the anxiety zone, where everyone is too scared to take a risk. High safety but low standards, that's the comfort zone. But the magic, the place where all the amazing stuff happens, that's the top right corner, the learning and high performance zone, where you have high standards combined with high safety.
And look, we have some seriously powerful proof for this. Google ran this huge study called Project Aristotle. They looked at hundreds of their teams to figure out what made the best ones tick. And what did they find? The number one factor, more important than anything else, was psychological safety. It was the foundation that everything else was built on.
This is such a fascinating and, kind of counterintuitive finding. Studies done in hospital NICUs, neonatal intensive care units, found that the best performing teams actually seemed to report more errors. So why is that? It wasn't because they were worse at their jobs. It was because they felt safe enough to admit their mistakes, which allowed the whole team, the whole system, to learn and get better. So, what this all leads to is one single conclusion. Creating psychological safety isn't a soft skill. It is the core responsibility of modern leadership. Full stop. And hey, this isn't just an academic theory. This is the reality for people at the very top. Just listen to what CEO Mark Costa says. His biggest fear is not knowing what's really going on because his people are too afraid to tell him. So what does a 21st century leader's job really boil down to? It's these three things. 1, build safety so people can learn and speak their minds. 2, set incredibly high standards and then coach people to reach them. And number 3, and this one is absolutely crucial, be the first person to admit when you don't know something or when you've messed up. So ultimately, what this really means is we have to completely redefine what a strong leader even looks like. It's not the hero who has all the answers. It's the architect, the person who designs an environment where the best answers can emerge from everyone on the team.
And that leaves us with one final and maybe a little challenging question for you to think about. In a world that demands we're always learning, always adapting, maybe the most powerful, the most courageous thing a leader can do is be the first one to say, I don't know, but you know what? Let's figure it out together.